If you want to not just get lean, but actually also build strong, big, ripped muscles, in this video, you're gonna find out the exact process, A to Z, on how to build maximum muscle. So before we go into it, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button below, because on this channel, you're gonna learn how to not just drop all the body weight that you want and get as lean as you want, but also build strong, sexy muscle so you can have an awesome looking, high performing, strong and ripped physique that goes along with your business success. What's up everybody, this is Coach Amir from 7figurebody.com, and today I'm very excited because we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is how to build maximum muscle. So basically how to get the best results out of all the time and every minute you spend in the gym. If you follow what I say today, I guarantee you're going to have better results and build more muscle than you ever did before. So let's first go into the actual mechanisms behind what actually builds muscle. So we know that when you go to the gym, you lift weights, and then as a result of that, that's basically your workout there is almost like a on switch for the machinery in your body that builds the muscle. So there are three proposed mechanisms of hypertrophy, which simply means muscle growth. Number one is mechanical tension. So basically putting mechanical tension on the muscle fibers that causes them to change, and basically as a response to that, the muscles grow, okay? Number two, so mechanical tension is number one. Number two is muscle damage. So basically the damage that's actually being forced onto those muscle fibers under load is what's supposed to be the second, mechanism of hypertrophy. And the third one is stress, metabolic stress. So you probably heard, this pump training, when you do a lot of weight, a lot of reps. So let's say, anything over 10 reps with somewhat moderate to lighter weight, and you have this pump, this huge pump. Metabolites are accumulating in the muscle, and this is known as metabolic stress or pump training. So these three ways are what used to be at least proposed as the three mechanisms of muscle growth. So all different types of training that we have, strength training, endurance training, and the middle, what's known as hypertrophy range, even though now we know that's really not true. You can build muscle in any range of reps and sets and weights. So you can build the same amount of muscle with light weights and a lot of reps, or heavy weights and low reps. As long as all the sets are pushed close to failure, you're gonna build the same amount of muscle. This is the greatest, most important finding in probably in history of research in this area of building muscle. So that's very useful for us, because now if you just prefer lighter weights, you can use that. If you prefer heavier weights, you can use that. But these are the three mechanisms, and now in the last couple of years, there's actually been some questions, and a lot of shade has been thrown onto the other two, metabolic stress and muscle damage. And now we know that kind of muscle damage almost doesn't really do anything. Metabolic stress, the jury is kind of still out. Maybe it contributes a little, maybe it does not, but even if it does, it's actually minor. So one thing that we do know that actually causes muscle growth is mechanical tension. When we put the tension on those fibers and we progressively overload them. So basically, progressive overload mechanical tension in one kind of phrase is what actually causes the muscle to grow. Now, of course, this is easier said than done, because what does that mean? Like how much I'm so excited, I'm hitting the microphone here. So how much weight, what reps, sets, what kind of, training program should you use to actually induce this progressive overload mechanical tension onto your muscles? Well, there are three factors that we play with, or let's say, manage in order to actually properly induce this progressive overload mechanical tension. These three parameters of your training program. Number one is training volume, which simply means the total load that you perform in the gym in each workout. So for example, that would be, weights times reps times sets. So for example, if you have 200 pounds on a bench and you do 4 sets of 10 reps, this is 40 total reps times 200 pounds, whatever that is, 40, 200, like 800 or 8,000, whatever it is. But it's basically, that's the total training volume or total load put on that muscle group in that one workout. That's training volume. The second one is training intensity. So basically, how hard are you training? Basically, which means weight on the bar. Obviously, if we do 4 sets of 10 with 100 pounds or 4 sets of 10 with 150 pounds is not the same. Obviously, it's gonna be much different with the heavier weight. And of course, the third one is the frequency, simply meaning, or training frequency. How many times per week are we hitting each muscle group? And you probably heard in some of my other videos, especially the one that 6 things that bodybuilders got wrong. You can click here to watch that video. they used to do, and probably still do, most professional bodybuilders do one muscle group per week. So Monday is chest day, Tuesday, back day, Wednesday, leg day, etc. So basically they annihilate the muscle group one time, once a week. And they can put a ton of sets in one workout simply because most of them are, number one, genetic outliers. Number two, they are, all the steroids in the world are there, right? We normal people cannot do that. We, natural, not, not, enhanced, can't do that. Or actually we can, but that's not the optimal way to just train once per week per muscle group. Actually, best way is to train twice per week per muscle group. So that's when it comes to that frequency. We're gonna handle that first because it's the simplest one. Basically try to hit each muscle group twice per week. That's probably gonna give you, for all the things, probably gonna give you the optimal results, unless somebody's really, really advanced lifter, in which case maybe they can benefit from 3 times a week, but then we go into, at least 6 workouts a week, etc. For most of you, just hit each muscle group twice a week, you're gonna be golden. Okay, moving up, let's talk about the second one, which is the training intensity. I already mentioned that, most people just like to put more weight, more weight, more weight. And certainly, if you are, for example, if you look at what you're lifting today, and you say, hey, on a bench press, I can put, 200 pounds and I do 4 sets of 10. And I ask, okay, 6 months ago, what was the weight that you were using? If you say, well, 6 months ago, I was also putting 200 pounds and doing 4 sets of 10, basically that just means you're pissing around and wasting your time in a gym. You're not progressing in any way. You're just maintaining, okay? Which is, by the way, 99% of the people in the gym, that's what they do. You ask him, oh, he's doing a set of something, and you say, hey, 5 years ago, what were you doing? He thinks it says, I was actually doing the same weight, because people do not focus on tracking the weights, tracking their sets and reps and weights, and they do not progress. Now, of course, if somebody just wants to maintain, awesome. But here in the entrepreneurial world, we're always looking to improve, and therefore, it's probably a very good idea to actually track all of this so you have an idea of are you progressing or not, okay? So when it comes to intensity, remember, this is very, very simple. As long as most of your sets are pushed close to muscular failure, and then I'm gonna do another video because most people really are, we all suck, basically. Every human being sucks at estimating what true failure is until we experience actual failure, especially on big compounds like, squats and deadlifts. It's very, high risk thing to try to do an actual squat set to failure. It's like a religious experience. You're gonna be like, oh my God, I thought I'm gonna die. So that's why most people don't do it. And I can't blame them. If you have any kind of injuries or you've been lifting for a long time, or you're like me, you're old, so everything kind of creaks and like your elbows and knees and low back and everything hurts, it's actually a very smart idea to not fail, especially on things like squats and deadlifts. But we want to push those sets actually close to failure. It doesn't have to be actual failure. As long as you do that, total intensity that you use, it does not matter. So as long as let's say you use very heavy weight, that you can only do, let's say 5 to 6 repetitions per set, but you come close to failure, or you use actually much lighter weight, but you're actually able to use, let's say 12 reps or 10 reps, but you still get close to failure, the amount of muscle you build from both is probably gonna be either the same or very, very, very similar. So that's when it comes to training intensity. And then the final one, I left the best for the end, because at least the current agreement is in the evidence-based industry that the training volume, assuming proper intensity, the training volume is really the most important, biggest driver of these 3 that actually drives muscle growth. So what does that mean? That means that if you're training hard, meaning you're getting your sets close to muscular failure, at least 2 reps or 1 or 2 reps close to failure, which, by the way, remember, most people in gym are not doing that. They're kind of like 5 reps shy of failure, which means it's really not doing anything. It's just maintenance. We need to train harder, okay? So, by the way, Dr. Greg always says, train harder. I agree, I really agree. Most people need to train harder, absolutely. So, the last thing is the volume. So here are some landmarks that you can actually use depending on where you are. So remember, guys, we have a beginner lifter, somebody who's been lifting properly 6 months, maybe 6 months to a year of proper lifting. You are a beginner lifter. In that case, you probably need 6 to 8 sets per muscle group per week. This is gonna be more than enough for you to maximize muscle growth. After the first year of proper training, I'm not saying, somebody's been lifting since high school, it doesn't matter. Most people have been lifting for 20 years. They're really still almost in the beginner stage, simply because, and again, I'm not judging them. I've been there. I'm in the gym 25 years, probably the first 10 or more was just pissing around. This was before internet, we didn't have coaches, YouTube, internet, none of that. So we really didn't know, we had no clue what we were doing. So the first 10 years of my lifting, you can just be like, oh, you know, down the toilet. It was basically for nothing. Okay, so remember, as a beginner lifter, you can build the biggest amount of muscle because you are so far away from that maximum muscular potential, which is awesome. So another video, we're going to talk about how much muscle you can actually build. But for now, remember, 6 to 8 sets per muscle group per week is a great start for most people when they just start to lift, let's say the first year. From about the first year is done, and now you're entering kind of the early intermediate stage, you may actually need to go like 10 sets or so per muscle group per week. And then as you're becoming more advanced, so let's say the next several years, let's say from year 1 to 5, or 4 to 5, you're going to be an intermediate lifter. You need to play with, you know, anywhere from 10 to 15 sets and see where actually what works for you. Also, please remember that different muscle groups can handle different training volumes. You can't train, probably cannot, very likely, the same training volume for quads and for hamstrings, because hamstrings are very fast twitch dominant, and you would probably just get injured if you tried to do a lot of like 20 sets per week. Probably not going to work. On the other hand, quads are big muscle, and they can actually, you know, they have kind of half fast twitch and slow twitch fibers, so they can really handle a lot of volume. Same thing with the other muscles. You know, just test where you are, because it is really individual. I can't say, hey, do 10 sets for, you know, your lats. Who knows? Maybe after 8 sets you've had enough. Maybe you can actually do 18 sets. We don't know until we actually test and try, okay? And then final thing here is if somebody's an advanced lifter. If somebody's an advanced lifter, meaning they've been lifting more than 5 years properly, with the right technique, with perfect form, with a, you know, science-based program that makes sense, they actually track progression. Now they're really an advanced lifter. They have a really good physique. They're pretty strong. They can actually, you know, there are some you know, strength graphs and numbers that show where you are as an advanced. It doesn't really matter. Who cares what we lift? How much I can deadlift, squat, bench press? Who cares? But if somebody's an advanced lifter in that level, probably about 15 sets or a bit more is actually going to be beneficial. But at that time, you will also notice that your training frequency will have to increase as well. So very quickly, going back to training frequency, remember that if you're training twice a week, each muscle group, that probably means that you need to be doing, let's say at least 3 to 4 workouts per week. As a beginner, 2 full body workouts per week are probably more than enough, 2 to 3. If you do 3 workouts per week in the gym and do full body every time as a beginner, you're absolutely going to maximize the amount of muscle you build. So doing more, being in the gym more, is not gonna give you more muscle. You already crossed that threshold of how much you can build. As you move on to this intermediate level, you're probably going to need to increase training frequency and add a little bit more volume, because, you know, volume increases, so we have to spend more time in the gym. So as an intermediate lifter, probably 3 to 4 times, I would say 4 times for most people, 4 times in the gym is probably going to be ideal. Upper lower split is probably optimal for most people again. And then as you become an advanced lifter, if you still want to keep making progress, yes, remember it's going to be smaller in the beginner stage. Progress is huge and fast. You can build a lot of muscle. As an intermediate, less muscle takes longer. As an advanced lifter, you're basically so close to your maximum, you know, muscular potential that you're basically just maintaining, and any progress you make is very, very small. But in that case, you probably have to be in the gym 5 times or more per week, just in order to actually have time to put all of this training volume as needed in order to progress further. So guys, that's it. Remember, there are 3 mechanisms of muscle growth: mechanical tension, progressively overloading, then muscle damage and metabolic stress. These last 2 are probably not contributing much, if any. Mechanical tension that we progressively overload is the thing that actually builds muscle. So whatever allows you to put more tension on, it's going to help you build more muscle. And 3 parameters that we have to manage and play with and manipulate in order to have this progressive overload mechanical tension are training volume, training intensity, and training frequency. So guys, hope you liked this video. If you did, please click the like button below, hit that notification bell as well. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in the next video.